Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Namaskars and good evening to all of you. Today we are privileged to have Revered Swami Tyaganandaji Maharaj. Maharaj is the head of the Vedanta Society at Boston, America. Firstly, on behalf of all of you and the ashrama, I would request our revered Secretary Maharaj to kindly welcome Swamiji to this event. For those of you who might not have seen this handout, let me very briefly say a few things about Maharaj before he addresses all of us. Revered Maharaj has a connection with the city of Belgaum, so we have the privilege of his company every once in a while. Swamiji joined the Ramakrishna mission at Mumbai Center in 1976. Subsequently, he served at our centers in the headquarters, New Delhi, and at Chennai for almost 16 years, of which about 11 years was as the editor of the English monthly called the Vedanta Kesari. In 1998, Swamiji was sent to America, to the center at Boston, where he continues to serve as its head. He has authored, edited, translated numerous books on the Upanishads, Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Viveka Chudamani, etc. And also addresses or gives a number of presentations, seminars and talks in the US and elsewhere. He also addresses at the Harvard University and MIT, which are in Boston itself. So today's talk, Swamiji has given the topic 3 questions. I request Swamiji to kindly address us.
Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Aviravirmageti Rudrayate Dakshinam Mukham Tenamam Pahi Nityam. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the Divine consciousness fill our hearts and protect us. Dear friends, I'm very happy to be here in your midst. And I thought today might be a good day to reflect on this subject three important questions. Those of us who have read the Gospel of Ramakrishna, the conversations that he had with his devotees, we often see people visiting him in Dakshineshwar, and people can't hear me? Ah. So we often see people visiting Sri Ramakrishna in Dakshineshwar, asking him in Bengali, he simply say, Upai ki, what is the way out? And we see that all of us, as we go through our life, we have different challenges that we face, challenges of different kinds. Some of them can be related to our health. Sometimes it could be related to our finances, about our relationships, problems in the family, at workplace. And every one of us tries to deal with these problems, find solutions as best we can. And through all of this, those of us who take religion and spirituality seriously also try to find what the ultimate meaning of life is. Some basic questions, such as what happens after death. There's not a single family who has not encountered death. In our own families, among our friends, we would have seen our grandparents, great-grandparents, sometimes parents, one by one, the elderly in the family leave us and go away. And if we think deeply, we know that every day we are all getting old as well. And we are getting much older, much faster than we think. This is the city I used to come. I was born here and I used to come as a very little child. And it just doesn't seem too far away. And yet now, more than half a century, almost 60 years have passed away. So time moves fast. It's a very illusory thing. If you look at the last 10 years of your life, or last 15 years, or last 5 years, you see that they have gone very fast. But if you think of the next 10 years or next 15 years, that appears like a long time. So if the last 10 years have gone very fast, there is no reason why the next 10 years will be any slower. So time moves fast. And so the three questions are really related to time, related to work, related to people. So I'll tell you a little story. So there was a king who one day this thought came to his mind. There were three questions that came to his mind. The first question was, which is the best time to do anything? The second question was, who are the best people to work with? The third question was, which is the best place to do any activity? And so, because he was king, he announced a reward. If anyone can find an answer to these three questions, and the king is satisfied with those answers, he will give a big reward, a big prize. And so when that announcement was made, people from very distant places came and everyone gave their suggestions. As for the best time to do any activity, some people suggested that it's good to have a fixed routine. Every day, decide which thing has to be done at what time. Some people best is to consult astrologer to find an auspicious time to do anything. Others suggested that for king, for one person, it's very difficult to know everything about which time is best. So best is to have a good set of advisors, a big committee which will advise the king on the right time to do anything. About the second question, which is the best people to work with, some people said, oh, best is you get some management experts to guide you because they will tell you exactly how to do and when to do these things. Some people said, no, best is to you consult some priests or monks. And so many different answers came. Same thing with regard to the third thing as well, about related to the best activity, which is the best thing to do. And the king was not satisfied with any of the answers that he got. Then he heard that a great saint was living. And of hill that you this morning, I was in this Yellur, 100 feet high, something like that. On a hill, a saint was living. And so the king thought, let me go to this holy man and ask him these three questions. And let me see what answer he will give. But that saint just lived by himself. He was hardly met anyone, especially the wealthy and the powerful he never met. Sometimes he met with some poor, simple people. Now the king thought, if he goes there as the king, that saint may not even meet him. So, along with his advisors, his attendants, he went to that hill. He told his attendants to wait at the bottom of the hill. The king dressed up as a poor man and then walked up that hill. And there, when he reached the top, he found that the saint was working in a garden. He was some digging and planting some seeds and so on. So the king went there and then the saint looked up. Of course, he didn't recognize he was the king because he had disguised as a simple man. And the king, who was disguised, said to the saint, I have come to seek answers to these three questions. Which is the best time to do anything, which are the best people to work with, and which is the best activity I should engage in. The saint heard those questions, smiled, patted him on the back, and continued to work in the garden, never answered. So the king waited half an hour, 1 hour, and then once again he asked the question, the same question to that saint. The saint just continued to work. The saint was a very old man, so the king then thought, let me give him a helping hand. So he told the saint, now you take a little rest, I will do the digging for you. So then this king started digging in that garden. And then after doing that for an hour or two, he once again repeated those three questions to that saint. Once again, the saint did not answer. He said, okay, now you take rest. Let me do the digging. That way, slowly, the sun began to set and the king lost hope. My questions are not going to be answered today. So before going, he once again now told the saint, look, I came here to seek answers to these three questions. And it's getting dark. If you're not going to answer them, then it's time for me to go home. Just then, the saint said, do you hear some sound? And what they saw was one old man, a big beard, was running. He was clutching his stomach like this and running toward them. And as he came near, they saw that that man had been hurt. Somebody had stabbed him in the stomach. Blood was coming out. So at once this king went and caught this man and took out his own shirt and tried to stop the bleeding, brought him water, and tried to take good care of him. And slowly after some time, the blood flow stopped. Then the saint and the king then lifted this man who was injured and took him inside that small cottage in which the saint lived. They put him on the bed, and by this time it had already become dark, and the king was exhausted. As you can imagine, not used to so much physical exercise. So he was very tired. So he just reclined against a door and fell asleep. Next morning, when the sun rose, the king opened his eyes and for a time was confused because he felt, where am I? What am I come here for? And then he remembered the previous day how he had come there. In the meantime, that injured man whom they had put on the bed, he looked up and he seemed confused also. Then he looked at this king, and that man recognized the king. And with folded hands, that person who this king had saved the previous day, he sought forgiveness. He told the king, please forgive me, please forgive me. And the king could not understand. He said, forgive for what? Then that man told, see, he told the king, Your Majesty, you don't know me, but I know you. He said, I had actually come with the intention to kill you. So he said, in the last war, you killed my brother. You took away all our property. And so when I heard that you're going all alone on this hill to meet that saint, so I waited near the bottom of the hill so that on your way back, when you come, I'm going to kill you. But of course, the king didn't come down because he was helping the saint up there. And so he said, that man said, I waited for a long time and then you didn't come. So I came out of the hiding and was trying to look, was trying to go up. At that time, the saint's attendants saw him and attacked him. And that's his saying, the king's attendants had stabbed him. And so he said, I ran up to save my life. And he said, he told the king, I came really to kill you and you saved my life. He said, now I regret that I thought you were my enemy. Now you turned out you are my greatest friend. You saved my life. So he said, I promise you, for the rest of my life, I'll serve you. I'll tell my children and grandchildren also to serve you. And the king was, of course, very happy that a potential enemy had suddenly become a friend. So he called his attendants. He told this man, we will return whatever the property was taken away. We'll return it to you. My own physician will come and take care of this man, take him safely to his home, make sure that he gets good treatment. And after they had left, this king then goes to the saint. And on one final try, he said, I came to find answers to the three questions. Will you answer them? Then the saint told the king, your questions have already been answered. And he said, how come? Then the saint said, "Look, yesterday when you came up, if you had not stayed back to help me in digging, then you would have gone down because I didn't answer your questions. And this man was waiting for you. And then you would have been killed. But because you stayed with me, the best activity was helping me at that time. The most important person was I. And the best time to do was you spent digging the garden. That was the best time." Similarly, he said, when that injured man came, at that time, the most important activity was taking care of him. And that's what you did. The best time you spent was the time you spent nursing that man. And the most important person that time was that injured person. By that, if you had not done that, then that person would have died, and you would not have even known that enemy could become your friend. And finally, the saint said, "These are the answers to your question. The best time to do anything in life is now, the present moment. Not tomorrow, not next year, because oftentimes we see in our life, we have all big plans. Plans related to family, to workplace, even plans in spiritual life. People say, "Oh, from beginning next Ekadashi or beginning some auspicious day, I'm going to start meditating regularly." And oftentimes we make these plans and never act upon them. Just making the plan gives us a great joy. Sometimes, I think many of us have already done it. When we were young, it was such a great joy to make a routine. Every morning I'll wake up at this time. This is the time I'm going to do exercise. This is the time I'm going to study. This is the time I'm going to meditate. Just making the plan itself gives us joy. But then we have to ask, how often did we actually do all the things we said we will do? And so, the important thing to remember is the only time in our control is this moment. Yesterday has already gone. We cannot change the time that has gone. Tomorrow has not yet come. All that we have is today. All that we have is this moment. Whatever we want to do, now is the best time to do it. The best people to work with. Again, the most important person to work with is the person right in front of us at any time. Sometimes when people speak about social service, and clearly there is a lot said in our books. Swami Vivekananda spoke about Shivajnane Jiva Seva, helping people, looking upon them as the embodiment of the divine, trying to see God in others, which is good. But sometimes we think that serving others means we have to go in search of finding hungry people, poor people. People go in distant villages to do service, which is necessary, which is good work. But oftentimes we tend to neglect the people right in front of us. Social service does not mean only going and serving strangers whom we have never met. It includes people we know. It starts right from our own family. There are people who ignore their family responsibilities, family duties. There are people who don't do the kind of duties they have to carry out as a father, mother, husband, wife, as a brother or a sister. We have duties, we have responsibilities. Sometimes people will ignore these things and then go to some distant village and go and do some relief activity and think, oh, I'm now serving God in others. It doesn't work that way. Service must begin right where we are. People we meet more often than anything. The people we meet more often are our own family members. If I cannot live in harmony, in peace, if I cannot be loving and kind to my own family, to my own friends, to my own neighbors, what's the point in just being in such very magnanimous to searching for people who are suffering in order to help? The reality is that everyone is suffering. Krishna says in the Gita, Anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasvamam. Anityam, everything is temporary. Those of us now who are a little bit older, we have seen so many changes occurring. Even if you go through the city of Belgavi, go to different places, and if you have seen those areas, say 20, 30, 40 years ago, how much the city has changed. Things are changing all the time. In the midst of that change, we will then see what has remained constant. Everything, we ourselves are changing. When we were born, we just weighed a few kilos. Now we weigh much more. Physically, we are changing. Mentally, emotionally, we are changing. But something within us has remained constant. I still feel I'm the same person. And spirituality contains or is really discovering or holding on to that unchanging part within me. And that's why Krishna says, Anityam. But the second part was Asukham. Normally, in our own life, if we look at our own life, every life, people will generally say there is joy and there is sorrow. Sukham, dukkham. There are wonderful, happy moments in life, and there are sad moments in life. And we all have gone through both of these. But when Krishna speaks about the nature of world, he does not say sukha dukkhatmakam, a world of joy and sorrow. What he says is asukham, no joy, joyless world. One other place in the Gita, Krishna refers to the world as dukkhalayam, alayam. Alaya means an abode. That's why we speak about the Himalayas. Hima is snow, an abode of snow. Krishna refers to the world as dukkhalaya, an abode of dukkha. Even Gautam Buddha referred to the world as just suffering. Now, if these statements were made by some homeless, poor, frustrated people, then we say we don't take them seriously. But Krishna was himself such a joyful personality. The Buddha, who was the prince himself, when they say this life is suffering, we have to take those words seriously, even if the meaning may not be immediately clear. And the meaning behind that is that yes, on a superficial level, there is sukha and dukkha, there is joy and sorrow. But at a deeper level, we see that there are several things in life for which there is no solution. Nobody has a solution to that. Everyone is suffering from it. And Krishna, again, going back to the Gita, Krishna says, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. Janma Mrityu, every living creature, one end there is birth, the other end there is death. Jara, aging. Aging is a process we cannot stop. Every day, every moment we are getting older. We can pretend we are not getting old. We can try to hide our age, but we cannot stop the process itself. So aging, vyadhi, of course, now with all this COVID thing that we all have experienced, we have known that vyadhi is something nobody can escape from. No matter how much healthy food you eat, no matter how much exercise you take, no one can say, I've never fallen ill or I will never fall ill. So these things in life, the reality of death, sickness, aging, stress, anxiety, universal. Everyone has it. And that's what Krishna and Buddha meant when he said life is suffering. Now, there is no easy solution to solve this other than going to God, going to religion and spirituality. And therefore, time, the only time we can do anything is now. Future, we can make plans. Past, we can have regrets, memories. But doing can only be done now. Also, there is this story you may have heard. So one man was going to have a major surgery, a big surgery. And he was, of course, very anxious about it. And so the doctor said, don't worry, everything is going to be fine. So this full anesthesia was given. And after the surgery is over, as the effect of anesthesia was getting over, he slowly opened his eyes. And then he saw somebody standing near his bed. So the first thing he asked is, Doctor, is the operation over? Is it successful? Then the person standing next to the bed, he said, shh, I am not the doctor, and you are not in a hospital. I am Chitragupta. this, this poor man, that operation had failed. And then he didn't even know it. He thought he's still in a hospital. I just mention it to show that life is uncertain. None of us knows. You see, they say that every time we go to bed, we are assuming and we are hoping next morning we will wake up and find ourselves in our own bed. What if next morning we wake up and find Chitragupta is standing next to us? And so, every moment, be ready for the inevitable. Because it's like this. Some people might think, oh, I'm very young. It's old people who die. Not true. It's not only old people who die. Young people have died also. And it doesn't necessarily have to be only because of health. It could be accident. It could be so many things. Life is very fragile. And therefore, every moment is precious. So if there is anything important in our life, don't postpone it. Because sometimes people say, oh, and it's very kind of common. It's happened so many times to many of the young men who come to join the Ramakrishna mission. And the family says, what's the hurry now? After you're retired, you can do a lot of praying and meditation. We are assuming that we are going to reach a retirement age. If there is anything important in life, if there is anything important, don't postpone it. Do it now, because another time may not come, another day may not come. And that's why a good practice, a good spiritual practice would be every night, before you switch off the light, before going to bed, if there is some picture of a god or a goddess or some holy picture, before you switch off the light, take a look at that picture and then switch off the light. Because the last thing that my eyes see, let it be something connected with the divine. Because that could be the last thing. I may die in the sleep tonight. Similarly, those who have a prayer or a mantra that they have received, it's very helpful. Because not everyone is so lucky to just switch off the light and hit the bed and go to sleep in 10 seconds. Most of us are turning and twisting, waiting for sleep to come, and then thinking all useless thoughts. Nowadays, people don't even have to think. If they have a phone, they'll be watching all the YouTube and social media and all of that. And then, of course, sleep gets delayed even more. But instead of that, if someone says, until sleep comes, let me think of God. Let me pray. Let me do japa. Again, that could be the last time I'm repeating the mantra. So whatever the most important time to do the important things in our life is now. Similarly, next morning when we wake up and we find we are still in our bed, not in Yabaloka or somewhere, then again, begin the day. The first time you open your eyes, look at the picture, a divine picture. Or look at the picture of Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swamiji, they are next to your bed. Begin the day, the first thing, even before you have gotten out of your bed, just repeat the mantra, or say a short prayer, say some shloka. It's very auspicious. Sometimes people begin by chanting the Gayatri. How we begin the day is very important. That sets the direction in which the day will go. So the best time, in answer to that, the three questions, the best time to do anything is now. The best people to work with is the people right in front of me. So wherever we are, whether at home, at workplace, in a market, wherever you may be, try not to hurt anyone. Try to be helpful. Try to be kind. There is a saying in the Mahabharata, it is said, Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. If you hold on to dharma, a life of dharma, life of honesty, truthfulness, life of loving kindness, of helpfulness, if I protect dharma, dharma will protect me. And so, the best thing any of us can do at any time in life is whichever person is in front of me, whether I know that person or not, let me try to bring some joy. It doesn't necessarily always mean carrying food to the hungry. Of course, that's good. But sometimes there are so many gifts we can give. For instance, Swami Vivekananda said, by being cheerful always and smiling, it takes us nearer to God, nearer than any prayer. We may not even realize this. Being cheerful, being smiling always, not only are we doing something good to us, we may be unconsciously helping people around us. There is this story about a British author who then emigrated to the United States. His name was W.H. Auden. And this probably occurred in the 1930s or 40s. So this author, one day was extremely depressed. So depressed that he decided to end his life. So in New York, there is a bridge called the Brooklyn Bridge. And it's a very tall bridge. And so he said, past midnight, he said he went to the Brooklyn Bridge, said, I'm going to jump from the top of the bridge and end my life, commit suicide.
And of course, at that time, past midnight, there was hardly anybody on the street. So he goes, climbs up. Just before jumping, a big truck passed by. And because there was nobody on the street, the road was clear, and the truck driver, he was whistling and singing a joyful song. He was not even aware of anything. He was just being happy. And the truck passed by with that truck driver smiling and singing this very happy song. So this author was about to jump. He heard that joyful song of that truck driver. And then he suddenly realized, what am I doing? There is happiness in life. There is joy. And so he changed his mind, quietly got down, went to his room, and he said never again in his life he thought of taking his own life. Now, that truck driver had no idea that he had saved a life. He didn't even know about it. He was just being happy. So sometimes we don't realize, by just being honest, by being happy, cheerful, unbeknownst to us, we may be helping other people. And sometimes we have seen that. Some days when you're not feeling particularly happy, you're just kind of sad or just bored. And then you go and you see some very happy, cheerful person. Just seeing someone happy lifts up our spirits. And then our own sadness goes away. Now that is service. That person has helped me discover some joy in life. So I mentioned this to show that service is more than simply bringing food and medicine. Just being happy, helpful, cheerful is also a way of serving. And it's a win-win situation. If I'm happy and cheerful, it helps me, but unbeknownst to me, it helps others also. Now, opposite way, if I'm very sad and morose and frustrated and angry, then not only am I hurting myself, maybe somebody else is in a good mood. Looking at me, they get sad. So I'm hurting somebody else also. Swami Vivekananda once said, if someday you are feeling sad, don't go out that day. Because it's kind of a disease. Just keep it to yourself. Don't go and spread your sadness to the whole world. One helpful practice in this is trying to see if we can live by ourselves, live alone, even if it is for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. In fact, a daily practice of prayer and meditation is first of all a practice to be alone. When we say that we get distracted during meditation, means the mind is refusing to be alone. People find it very difficult to be alone nowadays. Even if you close the doors and windows of your room, you feel tempted to look in your television, look in your phone. Even if there is no people around, we always need company of some sort. Now, if you force somebody, no television, switch off the phones, don't meet anybody, just sit by yourself. And a lot of people say, that's very boring. Doing nothing, with no company, that's very boring. Think about it. When there is nobody, the only company I have is myself. And if I find it boring, means I'm a very boring person, which is why I cannot live by myself. And if I'm not able to live by myself, if I'm getting bored by my own company, what right I have to thrust it upon other people? If I want other people to enjoy my company, I should be able to enjoy my own company. And the only way we can test that is by trying to find at least some time in the day away from everyone, and just by being ourselves. So that's the best activity. The best activity is being cheerful, being happy, and whichever person we are next to, be helping that person. So the most important person in our life is the person right in front of us. The most important work is to bring joy to ourselves, but also to others. And the most important time is this present time. These are all simple things. These are not complicated things at all, not even talking high philosophy. But with these simple teachings, we will find the answers to the question that we seek very easy in our hands. And I will just conclude now with telling a favorite exercise, if you like, which is again very simple, but if we can practice it, it will change our life. And essentially, these are what I sometimes like to call 4 exercises. These are sets of 2. 2 things we have to forget and 2 things we have to remember. Very simple. So, the first thing to forget. Many of us have done a lot of good things in life. We have helped many people, we have been kind and so on. The first thing is, forget all the good that you have done. Keep on doing good things, but don't hold on to it. Because remembering how good we are, how helpful we are, actually hurts us. Because sometimes when we do a lot of good things and always are conscious, oh, I helped this person, I helped that person, then it sets up expectations. Because then it feels, oh, I helped that person. Now when in their need, when I needed something, they did not help me. So I get hurt, I get upset. But if I say, my nature is to help people, whether in return they help me or not does not matter. It's difficult, it's not easy. Because at the very least, what we expect is people will say at least a thank you. People will be grateful. Swami Vivekananda said, if you want to be a real karma yogi, then know that the very people you help will be the people who will abuse you, who will stab you in the back, will not be grateful to you. In spite of that, are you still willing to go and help people? Difficult. So the first rule is, keep on doing good things, but as soon as you do it, forget about it. Don't expect anything in return. Now the second thing to forget is a little bit even more difficult. Forget all the bad that other people have done to you. Sometimes we carry the grudge all our life. This person, 10 years ago, he said this to me. I'm not going to talk to him. Sometimes we carry it over generations. Your father did this to my father. Your grandfather did it to my grandfather. What's the point? One day we are all going to die and everything is going to go away. Carrying this grudge, this hatred, this anger is not helpful. So 2 things to forget. Forget all the good that you have done. Forget all the bad that others have done to you. And now 2 things to remember. The first thing to remember, that everything is temporary. People will come, people will go. Things will come, things will go. If we remember that things are temporary, we'll actually enjoy life more. We will not regret, we will not cry, we will not grieve when things go away. It's like you go to a garden and you get a few flowers. And as soon as the flowers bring so much joy. But we know the flower, I'm not talking about plastic flowers, real flowers. The flowers are not going to last all the time. After a few days, the petals will fall, they'll dry, and you don't cry, oh, this flower is now gone. You already knew that it's going to go away. But that's true with regard to the people around us as well. Every member of our family, our friends, are like flowers. We need to take good care of them. Be happy in their company. Give them joy, receive joy. But know that like flowers, one day these people around us will go away. Just like we ourselves will go away one day. So recognizing that everything is temporary, we will begin to appreciate the value of people around us. That as long as they are there, whether it's our aging parents or our aging friends, take good care of them. As long as they are with us, be grateful for their company, learn from them. And the second thing to remember, that everything is temporary, everything goes away. The only thing that always remains is God, Ishvara. Everything else goes. And that's why people who hold on to God, and God is a very abstract term. Most of us think of God not in some kind of a philosophical way. We have a special connection. Now, many people who come to the Ramakrishna mission look upon Ramakrishna, Sharada Devi, Swami Vivekananda, or if you are a devotee of Rama, Sita, Krishna, Radha, there are so many different ways we can think of the divine. But whichever way we are able to connect with that higher reality, that is what brings stability in our life. That is what will bring real joy in our life. So I will stop here now. I just wanted to share these questions about time, about work, about people. So if some of these things we try to embody in our own life, we'll be able to live happily, cheerfully, experience that joy and freedom in our life, and able to bring that joy to people around us as well. So my prayer to Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother and Swamiji, that through their infinite blessings and grace, may we all discover that peace and joy in our own lives. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace.
Swamiji, we are grateful to you for sparing time to share those words of wisdom with us over the last 40 minutes. I thank you on behalf of all the devotees and the ashrama, and we hope you will make many more trips to Belgaum and we can benefit from your advice. Swamiji will sit outside. You may kindly offer pranams before leaving.